we wanted to touch on, so fair mining is kind of a campaign that we've been working on for a few months now, just bringing awareness to how ASICs and centralizing of mining can be bad for the crypto community as a whole. So Zcash, our last episode we talked about the new miner from Bitmain for Zcash and Bitcoin Gold and a few of those other coins that use I think it's the Equihash algorithm. So Zcash actually released a statement that their statement on ASICs, basically they are prioritizing ASIC resistance research, and we applaud them for that, for going down that road. It's definitely much easier if that's kind of in your wheelhouse from the get-go. You don't have a lot of work that you need to do because you've been going down that road the entire time. But this is another group that has seen the need for ASIC mining resistance, and we're glad to see that. So, it would be nice to see some of the other coins like Ethereum, kind of take this approach, but that's where Zcash is currently.
It's very interesting to see the current landscape of what everyone thinks. I'm not sure how Zcash really came to the conclusion, because I know I was reading quite a bit through their forums, just seeing that initially the public were quite for to get rid of the ASICs, and initially the developers were a bit apprehensive to do so. But it's interesting to see that the developers have kind of did a bit of a 180 on that and decided to support the community. So we'll see what they do. That was completely their own decision, but it's great to see them caring about what the community thinks, and we'll see what they do moving forward.
I am definitely interested in what happened, because in the matter of a few days they went from no action and like promoting that to, okay, we should probably research it. Now Zcash, especially what they do is definitely very like technical, and I think maybe this is one of those like developer things where they realize this is like a real technical solution, and they can help put out like a research paper like at the forefront of understanding what people can do and what other coins can do to promote ASIC resistance, because as Bitmain is very, very, very crafty. Some of those like coins that were like trying to be like ASIC resistant. I mean, especially in the Ethereum white paper, when you first read it, Bitmain found a way around it. So of course they have a lot of money, they have a lot of resources, so they will be able to find out certain things. So one of the only ways to promote ASIC resistance is to do what Monero did and hard fork, and also hard fork, like they try to hard fork twice a year, and people do that definitely does take a toll, right? Hard forking is not always the most seamless thing. It should be very simple, very straightforward, but some people look at that stuff and lose faith or whatever the case may be. There's a lot of psychological block for it. And if Zcash, and of course obviously us at Vertcoin, we can figure out and promote a way that it is like nearly impossible, because I won't say anything is not possible, nearly impossible to create an ASIC chip for a specific algorithm. That would be kind of cool to look into. It is a very interesting technical problem.
Yeah, and Zcash isn't the only one who is doing this either. Scicoin also had released a Medium article regarding the state of cryptocurrency mining and kind of how ASICs are working on their system. I know you guys had read over this in great detail. What were your thoughts on kind of their statement and what they were contributing to the space regarding ASICs and mining in general and cryptocurrency?
Well, what the article mainly goes over is that ASICs, the main sort of premise of the article is that ASICs are quite flexible. I don't think they're really correct in saying that. I think, yes, what is correct is that the hardware is a spectrum. So you've got GPUs at one end, which are incredibly versatile, and then you've got a pure ASIC, which is a single algorithm that can that is completely inflexible. So it's a spectrum from inflexible to flexible, and right the way through the middle, you've got devices. There is devices that are in between ASICs and graphics cards. You've got different types of FPGAs, which a graphics card is a type of FPGA, so field programmable gate array. And that means you can have something that's like a semi customizable ASIC. But the thing really to make a point about is this array, this spectrum that goes from one side to the other. When you move down, when you start, doesn't matter what you do, when you start moving down from one side of the spectrum to the other, the efficiency decreases. So they say, okay, well, it doesn't matter if you can hard fork the algorithm, you still have ASICs on your network. Well, you've kind of just ignored part of the problem here for the ASIC manufacturers. The chip they will be making will be significantly less efficient. Okay, so basically, the harder you make the ASIC resistance, the worse efficiency the new ASIC will have. So people saying that ASIC resistance is pointless, I really don't follow your argument, because you can make it extremely difficult to the stage where even if you made the best version possible, and say the best version possible, they'll still be able to achieve an ASIC, because ASIC, something that's ASIC proof does not exist. You could make something, but it wouldn't be very efficient at all. So a worst case scenario, someone comes onto your network and tries to attack you, they would still need ridiculous amounts of money, because these things would only be not that much more efficient than graphics cards. Okay? Mm-hmm. So they'd still have to put in a crap load of money. So it really wouldn't make sense to attack it. So I think combining those two things with the spectrum and realizing that there is a difference in profitability really needs to be looked at, because people saying that, yes, they could make a hard fork resistant ASIC. Yes, you're right, but that's not the full story.
I mean, yeah, so the big thing that I also want to touch upon, and what Crypto Plankton is saying, is the efficiency, right? You know, you need a significant amount of money to try to be profitable when you do some ASIC mining. I wrote an article about it, actually, where when you try to get into Bitcoin mining, you have to compete with, I showed a picture of their warehouses. They had that was also from last year. They had 7 in just one area, 7 warehouses that hold thousands of ASICs. You buy one of those, you're not gonna see that much difference, and you need to continuously accumulate all these ASICs, and basically it becomes a rat race of who has the most money, who has the most research to put in. And when that's something like that happens, and we keep pointing this out, that's, the ASIC, yeah, okay, great, it's a kind of cool technical thing where it's it does one thing very well, but this is not a process, and I'll keep saying this until people get it. It is not a process on your computer that you try to help make better. This is consensus. When you start having all that power to one side and not efficient for anyone else, those people cannot participate in consensus. The big thing that people really need to understand about this space, ignoring all the tokenization of certain things and whatnot, it's consensus. The way that we decentralize, the way that we break apart from these centralized entities, these credit card companies, these banks, is through consensus. And if we keep centralizing this power through ASICs, we effectively go back to a similar system that we have to trust this centralized entity that has all this hash power, or all this all the money that they have, And again, it just starts sounding like banks again. The whole point of this space, and I know we're starting to sound like broken records, but it has to be reiterated over and over again. The reason that it was created, and you guys need to realize that the efficiency and of consensus is and also profitability to compete against someone like that has like ASIC warehouses and stuff like that is just unfeasible. And it's at some point it could reach a breaking point, and we don't want that to happen.
Well, that breaking point is the 51% attack, where they basically can change the whole rules around the blockchain, which I know we've talked about in previous episodes and such. But I have up here the image that you were referring to with the Bitmain warehouses that most people don't get to see this, and these are a year or so old now, so you can only imagine what they have grown onto this. I mean, the fact that Bitmain was able to invest over $100 million in the Circle this week, that was announced, having them as a huge investor into that platform, which they are now the owners of Poloniex. Now they're becoming more of a capital venture firm as well, simply just due to the amount of money that they've been able to profit off of making these ASICs, mining the coins prior to releasing those ASICs to the public. So this is why, some people may say that we sound like a broken record, but it is a big problem that we take very seriously, and I don't think that it's really talked about enough in this space, because it's hard. It's not easy to really sit down and think about the what ifs. A lot of people can be very reactionary whenever something horrible happens, but we would rather be able to talk about what are the possibilities of somebody in the space that has this much hash power due to the particular type of hardware that they're creating on a monopoly level. You don't, because I know some people will say, well, down the road there will be more people who will be making ASICs and you'll have competition. It's like, well, right now that's not the case, and right now we can only talk about what's happening now, and we can prepare with what's happening now. But I think this is something that we're going to continue to look at and keep a focus on, because it is it's a serious thing that we have to take into consideration, given the fact that a lot of these other coins are getting 51% attacked, and you don't know who's doing that. It could be Bitmain trying out some ASICs, and they're just dominating hash power because they can't keep up with GPUs.
Yeah, it's. I found the whole thing really interesting, the whole back and forth debate at ASICs. But I think another thing that's quite underappreciated is the control of having the single entity as a production, doing production. Because I think most of the time, Bitmain actually has two lines of products. They sell they sell you I know we've already touched on this, but they already sell you a used product. But they also have a second line where they'll produce a more powerful version later, which they're already mining with. So even the stuff they sell you, even though it's secondhand, they also have another version which they're going to sell you later, which they're mining unfairly, which they can keep doing this for so many generations until, because it is by far the most popular miner for so long. So they can keep iterating generation after generation really quickly and keep control of that hash power. And then you've got something like Antbleed, which is the remote backdoor into the ASIC, which is quite interesting as well. So I really don't understand. Even if you say there are companies in the future, these ASICs will be out there for so long, and the fact that things like that can happen, and you've got that a vested interest, not vested interest, you got conflict of interest in there. I really don't see how there can be an argument for them.
Yeah, and to finish off this point, he was talking about how the ASICs are built, and let's not forget that as you said, Canen, that Bitmain also is doing some venture capital, in terms of what other businesses they're into. They're very into AI right now, and artificial intelligence. And the thing is, if they decide one day that whatever happens and the mining operation You know, I mean, I'm pretty sure it's not going to like go away, the profitability, anytime soon. But if one day they decide, yeah, you know what, doesn't matter, we're going to just go straight into AI, just continue doing that, and for whatever reason they stop doing the mining, then Bitcoin loses 80% or 60% of their hash power overnight, because all of it is in China. And you know, I don't know the exact number. James Lovejoy of the lead developer of Vertcoin actually had an interview of that. And the fact that there's a backdoor switch, like kill switch, from again, why does that seem okay to people? Where all of a sudden, like, the hash power can be just zipped, turned off overnight for GPUs, and you know. You
know why it seems okay is because it hasn't happened, because nothing nefarious or nothing bad has happened yet, so that's why it's okay. And then as soon as something bad happens, people are going to lose their minds, like, how could this even be possible? And unfortunately, that's the reactionary aspect of cryptocurrency right now. It's kind of like when December hit and January hit, everybody was all gung-ho. They were telling all of their friends about cryptocurrency, get in without any regard, because they assumed it was going to keep doing what it was doing. And then once the price started to fall, that's when everybody got reactionary and were very investigative of you know, what coins they were putting, you know, money into and stuff of that nature. So it's unfortunately, it seems like the space is a reactionary one. And until Bitmain does something, or it comes out proving that they were responsible for some of these 51% hacks, their reputation is going to be, you can buy a machine that prints money and we can sell it to you, you know?
Yeah. I mean, you know, you hit the nail on the head, actually. It's like, there's a psychological effect. It can't happen here, psychological effect. And, you know, this time it's different psychological effect. And, you know, those are not the official names, but you could just name them that, because, you know, people think, oh, it can't happen. And then, you know, one day it happens, and then people are like, oh crap, what happened? And then, you know, going back to what I was saying about just to finish off the thought, the kill switch, right? And that's a built-in feature, I guess, or that's what they call it. I wouldn't call it a feature. I wouldn't call it a feature. For GPUs, they would have to, like, the government would have to, like, knock on your door or bust through it, whatever they want to do, and be like, hey, can you turn off your computer, please? No, that's not going to happen. So
yeah, they'd have to take down the internet, and you know, that's going to cause more problems.
Well, yeah, just to finish off this section, you've got 80% in China, but then you've got to think about all the ASICs which Bitmain has sold outside China. I'd be willing to wager, like, a lot of the ASICs in China are made by Bitmain.
Oh yeah, 100%.
But then you got to think about all the ones which are outside. So it's not just, there is a ridiculous amount of them made by Bitmain. and the fact that apparently the revolutionary trustless asset Bitcoin is right now having to be trusted by Bitmain's ant bleed. Yeah. I don't think we're in a good situation, but anyway, we'll see if we'll make it through crypto next.
Luckily, I think we as Vertcoin are in a good situation, because we're at least aware of this. We're talking about it. We're trying to educate people on it, and we're making sure that we are not going to be victims of any sort of malicious attacks by a company like Bitmain or someone that is able to accumulate and monopolize so much hash power that it becomes a problem. So I think we're in a good space for that.